I want you to take us ahead to January 28th, 2022.
Okay.
On January 28th, 2022, do you remember that day?
Yes.
Generally, what do you remember about the day of January 28th, 2022?
There was a blizzard coming, and it was my daughter's friend's birthday. So we were going to be going out celebrating that night, but we did it on the early side because there was a blizzard coming.
What was your plan for that evening?
We went bowling. We got dinner, then we went bowling, and then I came home because I wanted to be in before the snow started.
Had you communicated in any way with John that day?
Yes. He texted me. My son had had an issue at school. Patrick had been dismissed, I think, for a doctor's appointment. So he did text me to see how my son was doing.
Did you simply text, or did you get a chance to speak to him that day?
I believe we just texted.
Did you go out that night after bowling?
No, I did not.
Was your husband home?
Yes.
Did he go out that night?
He did. He went out with John.
And do you know where he was planning on going?
They went to McCarthy's, a bar in Canton Center.
Had you been to McCarthy's before?
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe what McCarthy's is?
It's a restaurant bar. There's a large bar in the middle, the seating on the left and the right. It's right in the center of town.
Do you remember about what time your husband went out?
I do not remember exactly. I don't know if I got home and then he went out, or if he was already gone when I got home. I don't remember. But it was he went out around the same time that I arrived home, which was on the earlier side.
How many times had you been to John's home, would you say, over the past couple of years before this night?
Oh, many.
Many times?
Many times.
Were you familiar with the house and the driveway?
Yes.
May I approach your Honor?
Yes.
Should I return to the podium and ask the questions?
You can ask them from there.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a look at that photo in front of you. Do you recognize what is in that photo?
That is John's house.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how his house looks?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to move this to evidence, please.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 6.
May I publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. You can take it down. I've shown you a second photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes, that's John's driveway.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how John's driveway appears?
Yes, it is.
I'd move that into evidence. No objection.
Okay.
Exhibit 7, so marked.
May I publish?
Yes.
Could... Thank you. I'm showing you a third photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what's in that photo?
It's the side of John's house looking up from the driveway.
Is there anything you notice on the side of the house?
The lights. Or the Ring camera.
Are you guessing, or do you know that's a Ring
No,
camera?
I know there's one there.
And how do you know that?
Because I got a Ring camera and I could look and see who was at my door. And then he said, why didn't you tell me about these things? So he bought one.
I move to introduce this photo.
Okay.
No objection.
Thank you.
Exhibit 8.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts, with the laser pointer, could you just point at the picture and show where the Ring camera is?
On this screen?
Yes, please.
Whichever one you can do.
Okay. Why isn't it working?
Nope.
It's on.
Okay, well, you know what? Rather than use the pointer, why don't we describe, can you describe where you see the Ring camera on that picture?
It's in where the two lights are under the top window.
Okay, thank you. We can take that down, please.
All right, again, that is John O'Keefe's house. We're going to pause it there. When we come back, we're going to continue to bring you this testimony in the retrial of Karen Reed. Also, for your knowledge, a Lori Daybell jury is still deliberating. They came back after an hour-and-a-half lunch, and you can see 1 hour and 50 minutes is there. Chris Ann, let me bring you back in. We have the jury deliberating, a lot going on, but let's turn back to Karen Reed. And what I want to ask you about Karen Reed, there was a whole lot of lead up to this particular witness, really establishing that relationship between this witness and John O'Keefe. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, they want to make sure that the jury understands that this witness, Ms. Roberts, had a very close relationship with John, so that they can know that she understood behavior, that she understood what was happening, that she paid close attention. She knows the surroundings. She's not guessing. We're about to find out about the Ring camera. And they're just simply laying a very firm foundation of credibility. Now, they haven't talked to anything about what Karen said that night or the interactions of that night. They're laying the credibility for her understanding of the relationship and the jury to understand who she is to this family.
Yeah, I agree. What about this? What about in between the two witnesses? We listened together as the Commonwealth did get into evidence without objection, a clip of Karen Reed. We know she gave many, many interviews, and this was a small piece of a clip of an interview where in it she basically admitted that she said, "Did I hit him?" Does that really help the state, or could the defense argue that was a natural response to not knowing or understanding what might have happened? But it doesn't mean she did it.
No, it's definitely not definitive of guilt. Definitely not. As a matter of fact, I can see that being used by either side as a benefit to either side. I can see the defense taking all this witness testimony and portraying Karen as a hysterically grieving woman who's simply trying to understand and explain what happened, that she doesn't even understand what happened. I think even her statements that may appear to be statements of reframe them as her asking questions and trying to figure this out. So this is really going to be a case of how well the defense reframes everything they hear from the stand.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, seasoned attorneys, they know how to try a case. It's going to be, I think, a really amazing trial to see in terms of the evidence, the defense, and what this jury decides to do. Chris Ann, thank you so much. We do need to take our break. When we come back, of course, we'll get you back into that courtroom in Dedham, Massachusetts.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, Karen Reed stands trial once again for the murder of her boyfriend. We're unpacking today's opening statements as this massive retrial gets underway.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Two huge true crime cases, and we have every legal angle covered. Previewing each day in the high-stakes murder trials of Lori Daybell and Karen Reed.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Back to Massachusetts in the murder retrial for defendant Karen Reed. She stands accused of killing her boyfriend John O'Keefe in 2022, but the defense claims that Reed is being framed in a wide-ranging cover-up. On the stand right now, O'Keefe's friend Kerry Roberts, still on direct examination by the Commonwealth. Let's go back in where we left off.
How many times would you guess you had been over to his house?
I don't know. More than 50,000. I don't even know. A lot. It was weekly.
That night you told us that your husband went out to meet John at McCarthy's, a bar.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember your husband coming home that night?
Yes.
Do you have any memory of about what time he returned?
I'm guessing, but somewhere around 10:30.
So I'm not going to let you guess. Do you know? Do you have
I don't know.
Okay.
It was around 10 or 10:30. I can't be exact.
Did you see him come home?
Yes.
What was the forecast for that night and the next morning?
There was a blizzard coming.
Was that part of the decision making of going out or staying home?
Yes.
At that time when your husband came home, did you look outside? Do you have any memory of what the weather looked like around 10:30?
I remember the snow started to fall somewhere around 12 because I remember looking out the window and I could see it starting.
And that was the beginning of the snowfall?
I believe so.
What was the weather out that night?
The weather that night, I think, was fine. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing yet.
I see. I want to move forward ahead. At some point that night, did you go to sleep?
Yes, I did.
Did you sleep through the night, Ms. Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Reed.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Ms. Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called, and the first thing she said was, Kerry, John's dead. And then she hung up. And then...
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
No, I did not.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name. I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Kerry, John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No.
And did you say this was around 5:15?
This was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
Okay. After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up, and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when, because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? And I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
After she called you again, did you have another discussion, or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Kaylee was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him, and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. I'm going to call the police and see if there was any accidents, or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer, who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
When you called the police to look for Mr. O'Keefe, did you call 911?
No, I called the non-emergency line.
Do you know if that call was recorded?
I believe so.
Okay. I'd like to introduce an exhibit.
Okay. Any objection?
Thank you. No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 9.
When you called the police, what was your level of worry at that point?
I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were out drinking, so I assumed, like my husband said, he's probably on somebody's couch.
The second call you had with Miss Reed, can you describe her demeanor in that second call?
She was frantic. She was frantic. I mean, she couldn't find John, so she was very worried.
How soft or loud was that phone call?
It wasn't as loud as the first one, but it wasn't a regular conversation.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play the exhibit of the call.
Okay.
Hi, I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. We were at the waterfall, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't take anybody outside the name of John O'Keefe, did you? John O'Keefe? Yeah, he's a Boston cop, and it would be on phone, but...
No.
He probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but...
Yeah, no, we didn't lock anybody out or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow. That's the present.
He lives on Meadow, Pleasant. Okay, and where's the white home? You said your girlfriend?
With his girlfriend, yeah, they were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, my husband had been out with him earlier in the night, but then he obviously came home. And he has custody with niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. And so she's nervous because he never even called me.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened. And I said, okay.
Coming up, more testimony in the murder retrial for Karen Reed. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Court TV Live. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Of course, honored to be with you. Court TV is tracking several big cases today. In Arizona, jury deliberations continue in the cult mom conspiracy trial of Lori Daybell, where she could face another life sentence if she is convicted. In Connecticut, after just over 2 hours of deliberations, the jury found Jose Morales guilty of murder and tampering with evidence in the missing daughter murdered mother trial. He faces up to 65 years in prison when he's sentenced on July 8th. And in Massachusetts, those opening statements and testimony begin in the Karen Reed murder retrial. This is the second time that Reed is being tried inside a courtroom in Dedham, Massachusetts on murder charges. She's accused of running over her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, and then leaving him to die in the snow back in January of 2022 after a night out of drinking. Reed's attorneys, though, claim that someone else killed O'Keefe and that there was a massive police cover-up to blame her for it. Reed's first trial, of course, ended in a mistrial last July when the jury deadlocked on 2 charges, including the second-degree murder. We are in court now for day 1 of testimony. A friend of the victim is on the stand, and the state is in the middle of playing a call that was made. Let's get you back inside.
So call the area hospital and nobody got in. I personally think he probably picked him up and he passed out. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't drive last night?
No.
No. Okay. Again, it's more, if you driven by you, you would have to, call in a conversation and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes happen with him?
No, that's why. He didn't tell me. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital and then I called Kansas police just to make sure he didn't get picked up. Like I said, he's got some police officers and those best people. If anybody could have picked him up,
Yeah.
we get it off.
Okay.
Again, we're going to have a bullshit party or something.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that. All righty.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Were you in your car when you called the police station and the hospitals looking for John?
Yes, it was.
Do you know at that point whether anybody else had called the police station?
No, I don't know.
Do you know at that point if anybody else had called any hospitals?
I don't know.
How long did you wait in your driveway?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
What were the conditions like out that morning?
It was bad. It was in the middle of a blizzard.
When you were outside in your car in the driveway waiting, describe the lighting conditions for us.
It was still dark out. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing, so it was not great.
How was the visibility?
Not great. It was coming down really fast at that point.
You said that night when you went to bed, the snow just started. Had snow accumulated at that point?
No, I don't think so. It was just starting to stick.
I'm sorry, that was the night before, but at this point when you were in the driveway, had the snow accumulated?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many inches it was?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Enough that the plows are out.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did she arrive at your house?
She did not.
What happened?
Again, I don't know if I called her or she called me, but eventually we connected on the phone and she said, I said, where are you? I'm waiting. And she said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen who? And she said, McCabe, she's gonna drive my car. And I said, okay, well listen, they don't want cars on the road because it's so bad. I'm already in my car. I'll come there to Jen's house, stay there, and we'll follow each other and we'll go back and drop your car off. Did you look in the house for John? Could he just be in the house, passed out somewhere? And she said, no, she hadn't looked in the house. So I said, okay, now I'm gonna come to Jen's. We're gonna take the car home, drop it off. We'll check around the house. And then, I don't know what the next step at this point was. I just wanted to check the house.
At the time you directed that you were going to meet at Jen McCabe's house and then drive to John's house, was there any suggestion by the defendant where she wanted to go?
I didn't know where Jen's house was. I knew the street. I had dropping Kaylee off or picked her up a few times. So I said, stay on the phone with me so I don't know which house it is. And so when I got there, I pulled in the driveway and there was some conversation about...
Can I back you up and just ask you a little bit about the drive there? I don't mean to interrupt. When you left your house, you talked a little bit about the weather conditions. How long did it take you to get from your home to Jen McCabe's?
Oh, it's quick. Probably 4 minutes.
What was the driving like?
It was not good driving. That's why I didn't want 2 cars on the road.
Did you have any difficulty driving through that storm?
No, I mean, it was treacherous. But I was in 4-wheel drive. I have an SUV.
You mentioned you didn't know exactly where Jen McCabe lived. Had you been there to drop off John's niece before?
Yes, but I didn't know which house it was because when I picked her up before, she was either getting out of the car at the driveway or waiting at the end of the driveway, so I didn't know which house it was.
I think I interrupted you, but were you telling us that as you drove to Jen McCabe's house, you were on a Bluetooth, on an open conversation with her to help with directions?
Yes, Jen and Karen were in Karen's car, and I was on the phone essentially with both of them.
Do you know what type of vehicle the defendant was driving at that time?
A Lexus SUV.
As you drove over to Jen McCabe's home and you had some guidance finding it, did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway, and at some point Karen said, my taillight, and I looked, and Jen she must have had the brake done because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
When you saw that the taillight had a missing piece, did you say anything?
No.
Did you think anything of it?
No.
How long were you parked behind the defendant's Lexus while it was parked in Ms. McCabe's driveway?
Not long. We were just, I pulled in and then we stopped, and then the next plan, at some point in that conversation as well, or maybe on the ride, because now we're heading to John's house to drop a car off. I pulled out of the driveway, Jen pulled out, and I followed behind all the way to John's house. And at some point, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And I heard Jen say, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's.
Was anything else said about the broken taillight?
No.
You followed Miss McCabe?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To John's house.
Did you arrive?
Yes.
I want to ask you some questions about when you arrived and what you did next.
Okay.
When you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's home, you were in two separate cars. Who pulled into Mr. O'Keefe's driveway first?
Jen pulled Karen's car in first.
So Miss McCabe was driving the Lexus,
Correct.
and the defendant was in the passenger seat?
Yes.
After you both pulled in, tell us what happens next.
We went, I wasn't sure if it was, at some point Karen showed us the tail light up close, but I didn't know if it was when we arrived or when we left. But we went into the house to look for John.
When the Lexus was parked by Miss McCabe in Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, was it facing the street or facing away?
Facing where the basketball hoop is, not facing the street.
I'd like to approach.
Okay.
I'm going to show you a photograph. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, that's John's driveway. That's Karen's car on the left and John's car on the right.
Do you recognize both those cars?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that photo as a fair depiction of his driveway?
Yes.
Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicles?
Yes.
Now, when you went there that night and you pulled in behind Miss McCabe and the defendant, is there any differences between how that area looked when you pulled in as opposed to that photo?
Well, it was the early hours of the morning, so it was dark out, and there was much more snow. And there was snow coming down.
I'm so sorry. You want to finish?
Nope.
Other than the snow and the lighting, is there any other differences?
Nope.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
All right. There's no objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection.
Exhibit 10.
With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Okay.
And to help us understand, you see on the left is the house.
Yes.
There's a motor vehicle in the middle of the driveway, but it's the vehicle to the left.
Yes.
And whose vehicle is that?
That's Karen's.
Is that where it was parked that night when you went into the house?
Yes.
In the motor vehicle to the right. You recognize that?
That's John's car, or SUV.
Thank you. You can take that down. I'm showing you a second photo.
Okay.
Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the back of Karen's car.
Does it look like a fair and accurate depiction of her car as it appeared that morning in the early morning hours to you?
Yes.
Do you notice anything that's distinguished in that photo?
The piece that's missing in the taillight.
Which one?
The right passenger rear.
Do you know when? I'm sorry. Do you know when this photo was actually taken?
I do not.
Although you don't know when it was taken, is that a similar depiction to your memory of how it appeared that morning at 5?
Yes.
Or a little after 5?
Yes.
I move to introduce this exhibit.
Okay.
No objection.
Okay.
The court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Yes.
Exhibit 11 somehow.
We can take that down, please. After you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's house, what was the plan to go inside? What were you looking to do?
To go inside and look and see if he was passed out somewhere. So we went in through the garage, and I started looking. I think Jen ran upstairs to Kaylee's bedroom, and I just started looking through the living room. Basement door was locked from the inside, so I knew he wasn't in the basement. And then I checked the other living room. He has a big house. Then I went to the top of the stairs to check his bedroom.
As you looked around, what was your mood?
What was my mood?
Yes. Were you calm?
I mean, I was worried, so we were, at this point, Jen had already established that they went to her sister's.
Sustained.
Okay.
Jen had already.
Hold on, Ms.
I'll
Roberts.
ask the question better. My apologies. How many rooms did you look through in John's house?
1, 2, 3, 5 or 6.
Did you see Miss McCabe looking in rooms as well, searching?
We do need to take a break. When we return, we're going to wrap up testimony from John O'Keefe's friends. So stay here with us on your front row seat to justice.
No, you're dodging the question, David. You're dodging the question.
I'm not here to be interviewed. You've agreed to be interviewed. You told the police you shot him twice in the head. It sounds like you lost control of yourself.
Not at all. No, not at all. I could have killed everybody in that building, and I didn't.
You think you should get some kind of credit for not killing people?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We are wrapping up testimony for the day in the Karen Reed murder retrial. The final witness for the day on the stand is a friend of the victim, John O'Keefe. Let's go back into court.
At some point, as you were looking, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
Was she looking with you?
She was in John's room.
What was she doing?
She was just standing there when I came up to the top of the stairs.
Did she say anything?
No.
Did she do anything?
No.
Was she searching?
I don't know. She was in the room.
What happened next?
At some point, Jen earlier had said...
Well, let's not talk about what was said. Okay. Let's just talk about...
The plan at this point is to go to 34 Fairview.
Ms. Roberts, I know that I'm just going to ask you to wait for a question because we can only get one person at a time. So next question, Mr. Brennan.
Again, my apologies. And so as you're looking through the house, you don't find John. What happens next?
The plan was to go back to Jen's sister's house.
Who made that plan?
Karen wanted to go back there.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did that conversation come up, and share with the jury what was said?
And the car ride to Meadows, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall, and Jen said, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's. So then Karen said, we need to go back to your sister's, and I said, no, we're gonna go to Meadows, and we're gonna drop the car, and we're gonna look there, then we'll go there if we don't find him.
When you were at the house, Meadows, John O'Keefe's house, and you didn't find him, was there any further conversation about what the next steps would be?
I said, let's go. He's not here. But I didn't know where Jen's sister lived, so we got into the car. Jen was in the passenger seat. I was driving my car. Karen was in the back seat. And Jen was giving directions.
Did you begin your way towards Meadows?
Yes.
And it was Miss McCabe who was giving directions?
Yes.
As you began driving to head towards Meadows, in addition to trying to drive, were you doing anything like looking or searching?
Well, yeah. We were looking on both sides of the road. I was looking on both sides of the road in case he was walking home.
Okay. Did you see Miss McCabe searching?
Yes, she was looking out as well.
Describe a little detail about what you saw Miss McCabe doing.
She was looking out the window as we were driving. So was I, as I was driving.
And where was the defendant during that time?
She was in the back seat.
Was there any conversation, comments, statements?
Well, she would be in the back seat, and then she would be in between Jen and I, in the back seat, and then in between Jen and I. She was just very frantic.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
There was conversation on the way there.
Okay. Was she looking as well? Did you see her looking out the windows like you and Jen?
I don't know if she was because she was in the back seat.
Okay. As you drove to Meadows, what was the visibility? The same or better or worse?
No, it was poor.
Did you make your way towards Meadows?
I did.
As you finally got to Meadows, was the house on your left side, your side, or on the other side?
Are you talking about Fairview or Meadows?
I'm sorry, Fairview.
Okay. The Fairview house came up on the left-hand side.
Before you got to the house, is there a tree line between that house and the house before it?
Yes. There's a cluster of trees and bushes.
All right, take us back. I want to talk about that morning. As you're driving and approaching Fairview, tell us what you hear, what you see, what's happening.
Jen's giving directions. and it was really bad driving. I was white knuckling because it was getting slippery. Karen wouldn't put on her seatbelt, so because she was in between us again the whole ride, and then sitting back. But she was worried because we weren't finding John.
Were you having words?
Yes.
Tell us.
I said to Jen, where are we heading? And she said, my sister lives on Fairview. And I said, where is that? She said, off of Chapman. I said, oh, okay, near Spring Lane. At some point, Bella's mom came up.
Tell me what that means.
I didn't know who it was, but it was one of Kaylee's friends, Bella's mom. Well, the directions. At some point, Karen was talking about Bella's mom to Jen, saying she never liked me. I didn't know who this woman was that they were talking about. But apparently, Bella's mom lived near where Jen's sister lived on Fairview.
Did you learn any more about the relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
So as you approached Fairview, tell us what happens.
As we approached Fairview at the house. You mean the house or the street?
Yes, the house.
The house. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And I said, okay. And as we approached the house, Karen from the back seat is now screaming, there he is, let me the F out of this car. And she's now kicking the back door to get out.
When you heard the defendant scream, there he is, and started kicking the car door, did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No, it was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay, what happens next?
And then I unlocked the car. I looked over, I didn't see anything, and I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran over to a mound of snow.
When she started running, before she got anywhere, did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is, so I'm looking around to see where he is.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.